Hey there, it's Miss Dina. I'm excited to be here with you today for this week's factory lesson. A little sad too though, because this is the last superhero faith. But you know what happens at the end of every superhero story. Somebody is going to win. So we're going to talk about being victorious. But before we get started, you know what we got to do. Make sure you eliminate all distractions. Make sure everybody's ready for today's lesson and get some space because it's time for praise and worship. Let's go.
Yeah. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Let not mercy and truth forsake. Come on, this is what we gotta do. Let's go. Write them on tablets of your heart. Hallelujah. That's how you guard the word. That's how you protect the word on the inside. Write them on. Tablets of your heart. Hallelujah. Come on, let's declare again what he says to us. I am the way. Yeah, the truth and the life. No one gets to the Father except that he comes. There's no other way but through Jesus Christ. Say, let not mercy and truth forsake you. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Don't let it slip, don't let it slip. Write them on. Hallelujah. Come on, tell your neighbor, tell your family. Tell them, write the word on the tablets of your heart. That's how we guard the word. Write them. We're attending to the word. Yeah. Hallelujah. And this is the confidence that we have. Thank you, Lord. Hey. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Trust in the Lord with all your might. Trust in the Lord with all your strength. Lean not to your own. Come on, declare that. Trust in the Lord. Yes, we will. Trust in the Lord. Yeah. Trust in the Lord. Say, lean not to your own. Trust in the Lord. We will not trust anything else, God, but we will trust your word. We won't lean to our own understanding, Lord. Yeah. Lean not. Yeah. I will hide your word. Yeah. Yeah, I will hide your word. Yeah. Come on, declare this truth. Declare this truth. Yeah. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. I will hide your word. Yeah. Trust in the Lord. Yeah. We will forever trust you, Lord. Yes, we will. We won't lean to our own understanding. Yeah.
Welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed praise and worship. And now it's time to get into this week's lesson. So, we've talked a lot about superheroes, like what they wear, where they go when they want to rest, even how they have superpowers. But, all that is because in the end, they want to win, right? Nobody wants to lose. So you would think that superheroes always win. But there's normally this thing called a journey, the things they do along the way before they get to their win. And the thing about it is that we know they're going to win, right? And we have a God who makes sure we win also. Have you ever wondered why we're called the factory? I mean, the factory, that's like a place where they make stuff, right? Well, that's what we're doing. We are dedicated and committed to making sure we build and make generations that always win. And we do that because we choose to trust God and He will make sure we're victorious in the end. But If you don't believe me, let's go into the Bible to read a quick story about someone who had a difficult time but ended up winning. And where we're going to go is into Judges chapter 7, verses 1 through 22. Hopefully you have your Bibles. I have mine on my phone. So Judges 7, verses 1 through 22. And I'm going to be reading from the Easy Reader version. You got your Bible? You ready to go? Here you go. Early in the morning, Jerubbaal, or Gideon, and all his men set up their camp at the spring of Harod. The Midianites were camped in the valley at the bottom of the hill called Moreh, north of Gideon and his men. Then the Lord said to Gideon, I'm going to help your men defeat the Midianites, but you have too many men. I don't want the Israelites to forget me and brag that they saved themselves. So make an announcement to your men. Tell them, anyone who is afraid may leave Mount Gilead and go back home. And at that time, 22,000 men left Gideon and went back home, but 10,000 still remained. Okay, so let's pause. Gideon is with his army of men. They are camped out, and God tells him, you have too many men. Wait, what, God? Like, we're about to go fight, and you tell me I have too many men? Isn't that a good thing? Like, if there's like 20,000 of us that are leaving, and you're leaving 10,000, that means it was like 30,000 plus people that were ready to go fight. And God said that's too much. But you know what? Gideon trusts God. So let's go on to verse 4. Then the Lord said to Gideon, there are still too many men. Take the men down to the water, and I will test them for you there. If I say, this man will go with you, he will go. But if I say, that one will not go with you, then he will not go. So Gideon led the men down to the water. There the Lord said to him, separate the men like this. Those who drink the water by using their tongue to lap it up like a dog will be in one group, and those who bend down to drink will be in the other group. So you take 10,000 men down to the water, and then God says those that lap it up like a dog, licking the water, is in one group, and the other men who like politely bend down to drink the water is the other group. So let's see who stays. There were 300 men who used their hands to bring water to their mouth and lapped it like a dog does, and the other people bent down and drank the water. The Lord said to Gideon, I will use the 300 men who lap the water like a dog. I will use them to save you, and I will allow you to defeat the Midianites. Let the other men go home. So we're down to 300 men from the 30,000 plus men. Okay, God. So Gideon sent the other men of Israel home. He kept the 300 men with him. Those 300 men kept the supplies and the trumpets of the other men who went home. Now let's think about that. There were 30,000 plus men with supplies, trumpets. I mean, like you're thinking like maybe swords or, maybe there's like shields and all this stuff. They left it, and now 300 men have to carry it. Woo! That's a lot of armor and a lot of supplies. During the night, the Lord spoke to Gideon and said, get up. I will let you defeat the Midianite army. Go down to their camp. If you are afraid to go alone, take your servant Purah with you. Go into the camp of the Midianites. Listen to what they are saying. After that, you will not be afraid to attack them. So Gideon and his servant Purah went down to the edge of the enemy camp. So I'm going to pause there, because what God was talking to Gideon about is that it's okay to be afraid. And if you're afraid, I'm going to let somebody go with you. But then you're going to listen to what they're saying, and you won't be afraid anymore. No, because God knows that we are people and we have these things called emotions, and he's going to make sure that we're comforted in some type of way as we go through these journeys where the end results the victory, but it's still hard along the way. So verse 12, the Midianites, the Amalekites, and all the other people from the east were camped in the valley. There were so many people that they seemed like a swarm of locusts. It seemed like they had as many camels as there are grains of sand on the seashore. So can you count the grains of sand when you go to the beach? That's a lot, right? Gideon came to the enemy camp, verse 13, and he heard a man talking. That man was telling his friend about a dream that he had. He was saying, I dreamed that a round loaf of bread came rolling into the camp of the Midianites. The loaf of bread hit the tent so hard, the tent turned over and fell flat. The man's friend knew the meaning of the dream. He said, your dream can only have one meaning. Your dream is about that man from Israel. It is about Gideon, son of Joash. I think that's how you say it. It means that God will let Gideon defeat the whole army of Midian. After he heard the men talking about the dream and what it meant, Gideon bowed down to God. Then Gideon went back to the camp of the Israelites and called out to the people, get up! The Lord will help us defeat the Midianites. Then Gideon divided the 300 men into 3 groups. He gave each man a trumpet and an empty jar with a burning torch inside of it. Then Gideon told the men, watch me and do what I do. Follow me to the edge of the enemy camp. When I get to the edge of the camp, do exactly what I do. You men surround the enemy camp. And I and all the men with me will blow our trumpets. When we blow our trumpets, you blow your trumpets too. Then shout these words, for the Lord and for Gideon. So Gideon and the 100 men with him went to the edge of the enemy camp. They came there just after the enemy changed guards. It was during the middle watch of the night. Gideon and his men blew their trumpets and smashed their jars. Then all 3 groups of Gideon's men blew their trumpets and smashed their jars. The men held the torches in their left hand and the trumpets in their right hand. And as they blew their trumpets, they shouted, a sword for the Lord and a sword for Gideon. Gideon's men stayed where they were. But inside the camp, the men of Midian began shouting and running away. When Gideon's 300 men blew their trumpets, the Lord caused the men of Midian to kill each other with their swords. The enemy army ran away to the city of Beth Shittah, which is toward the city of Zariah. They ran as far as the border of the city of Abel Mahala, which is near the city of Tabith. So, all that to say, Gideon had 30,000 plus men, down to 300. And guess what? All they did was blow their trumpets and smash some jars. The men that they were going to fight against ended up turning on each other. That's a victory that is like sweatless. Gideon was afraid, but God made sure he let him hear that he was going to give him the victory. You know, that's the thing. If we trust God, we win no matter what. Like what's our motto? You know, one God, one truth. He has the truth. He's our God, and he's going to make sure that we get that truth and that we win in the end. That's extremely awesome. I'm so excited that we get to teach you all how to win. I am so excited that so many of you probably have built your faith to like superhero proportions where you are ready to conquer the world. So I hope this story kind of encourages you to know that you got the victory and we have so much more that we have to do ahead of us. You guys are young. Let's go. Let's win it. That story about Gideon got me feeling like superhero-ish, you know? So I had to put my cape back on. Well, I borrowed it from Super Diva. Okay, that's all for this week. But remember, we always finish with our memory verse. And you probably have it memorized by now. And it is coming from Psalm 62, verse 7. I depend on God to save me and to honor me. He is my mighty rock and my place of safety. That's coming from Psalm 62, verse 7 in the NIV version. So until next time, we'll see you here again. Y'all didn't know Miss Dina could fly too, huh? Okay, so I'm sure you guys are very familiar with these, right? These are trophies, things that signify that you won something. And then if you don't get trophies, sometimes you get medals. Most of the time it's just like you've won. We had our medals when we were doing this Olympics, the Summer Olympics in the factory. So there's different ways to show that you've won in the world with there's trophies or medals. And there's also something you may not be familiar with, or maybe you are, and they're ribbons. Sometimes when you would place, like you got first, second, or third, depending on where you placed, they would give you a ribbon. Or they give you ribbons again because you did show up and participate. So what we're going to do for today's craft is we're going to make ribbons, but we're going to use them as bookmarks. So if you're not familiar with a bookmark is something you use when you're reading to make sure you know where you left off at. So our bookmarks are going to be used in whatever book you want to use them on, but it's a reminder of being victorious through Christ, because we've talked about how as long as you choose God and you trust God, you will win. So what we're going to need for our craft this week is just some crayons or maybe markers. Then we're going to use some paper, whatever color paper you have. You know, I chose blue because when they normally give out ribbons for prizes, blue is the winning color, but you can use whatever color you have. And then scissors, if you want to cut versus tear out, it's up to you. So let's look at how we can make some bookmarks to remind us that we're winners. What we're going to do is we're going to take our paper and we want to cut it in a way so that it looks like a bookmark. So my paper was really big. So it's pretty big. So what I did was I cut it in half again. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it the long way to make a bookmark. Now maybe you're reading like a smaller book and you don't want it that way. So you can always cut it the short way. I have some more paper here, like this. Just however you want to make your bookmark. Another thought is ribbons, when they were given as prizes, sometimes had a circle at the top. So you can also maybe cut it and make like a circle at the top of it. I mean, it's your bookmark, your symbol of winning. You know, Miss Dina doesn't really cut that well, but there you go. But then from there, you just put whatever you want on your bookmark. So I'm going to use markers today. I'm going to start off with black. And so I'm just going to say, I win. You can make pictures. Maybe I'll make a little star because, you know, you get a gold star sometimes. I win. And on the back, I'm going to put because of Jesus. Again, make it whatever you want. I like to keep it simple, but now I can use this as a bookmark and it's going to remind me I win because of Jesus. If you choose to do this craft, why don't you go on Facebook and let us see what you were able to come up with. And I'll just show you some of my favorite bookmarks I had at home.